Well, hello there. Greetings, everybody. Thanks for dropping in. As I mentioned at the pre-show, it's going to be a little weird today. Um, it's either going to be really informative and very interesting, or it's just going to be boring AF. And you'd be like, what the hell just happened there? So we don't know. We'll find out. I have to begin, of course, with another apology still to Seven Raven Wolf. I feel so bad. I had set this all thing up to to get going. I have an interview that I did with her like 2 months ago now, and I've been editing it and promising to put it up, and then I was really close, and it's pretty much done. But as these things sometimes occur, I got hit with just again out of nowhere a really strong nudge the last couple of days, and I fought it off because I didn't want to. I hate making promises that I don't keep, and so yeah, I told her it'd be about 99%. That's pretty close, right? So, but I couldn't fight off this nudge, and so here we are. Um, I got to do what I got to do. So there's been a lot of stuff happening. That's what sort of the title of it here is. Things are happening, and so are you. There's a lot of stuff going on, and I want to touch on a few of those things, and I want to get your input today as well. So it's going to be one of those, I guess. I got my delicious freaking coffee. You know, it's amazing. I had mentioned on, I think it was Poppycock Report the other day, I got a new French press, and it's not a big deal. It's not super fancy or anything. I've used French presses for, I don't know, 25, 30 years now. As it's one of the better ways, to me, it's the best way I know of right now to make my version of coffee in it, which is pretty amazing. But I just, you use it's about $20 or so, 25 bucks for a regular French press, typically an 18 to 20 ounce. I've had as big as a 40 ounce before. But just a glass, usually Bodum or one of those brands. But so I got a new one. Just wanted something different. Some of the filter kind of wears out after a while, and so typically it would be the carafe that breaks because they're usually glass, and something usually goes wrong, and you chip those or crack them or whatever, and then you just have to replace it. But I had just worn these plumb out. I've got 3 French presses. Well, now I have 4. I had 3 French presses. Just had worn out the screens, and it cost almost as much as buying a French press to replace the screen. So anyway, I got another one. I got it off Amazon. I hate to give them money, but it was a quick way to get one because we've got an Amazon locker right around the corner here. So it's even faster than getting it delivered to the house, even though it's 1,800 feet, something like that. But there's an Amazon locker, and they deliver there every day. And so they send you an email, and you go down there and just scan it and get into your locker and pick up whatever you ordered. So I was, it's usually able to get things within 48 hours, as long as they have it in stock. Because there's, Amazon distribution center right here in Seattle, obviously. Anyway, I got this French press, and it's a metal one instead of glass. It's dual wall. It's a little bit bigger, 36 ounces, I think. But the filter is really good, and just with the new coffee blend that I'm using, and I usually use 3 to 4 different beans and a variety of different roasts. Unbelievable. I just like, wow, just a new French press, but it's double walled, and so you take, you heat the water, you put it in there first, and then let it sit for a minute, and then continue heating the water, so it stays, the carafe keeps it warm. But I don't know, just the combination of the beans and the new filter, just, maybe, I don't know, just keeping it a higher temperature, just because, anyway, off the hook. My wife and I, almost every day we go, how is it possible? It gets better and better daily. I mean, with every time. And I used to call it coffee so good it makes you swear, because we would just stand around and go, as soon as we take a sip, we go, what the hell? Like, fuck, this is amazing. And it just keeps getting better. Anyway, so if you aren't familiar with the Baldini coffee style, I'll give you a quick thing. And yeah, it's about intention, right? That's a huge part of it is casting intention. I say cast, people go, oh my God, casting a spell. No, you just cast intention into the water and the bean as you're making it. It makes an enormous difference. I know it sounds woo, but it's, again, you can prove this thing with the rice experiment and all that sort of stuff. So intention is a huge bit, but the way I do it is I use a combination, mostly Chiapas beans is what I'm using now, although a variety of things. Jamaican Blue Mountain typically gets in there, a little bit of Kona roast, but in smaller quantities. So predominantly it's about 60% Chiapas, light medium roast, and then usually a light roast breakfast blend of some kind. Again, currently I'm using a Jamaican Blue Mountain and a little bit of medium roast Kona, as well as an Ecuadorian bean that I got. And so just a little bit of that and ground to a medium coarse, and put that in the French press. And I use about, it's hard to tell you exactly, I could probably do it by weight, but a fairly good couple of shakes of canela, ground cinnamon. And then kind of shake that down into the coffee, and that goes into the grounds. It's a very different experience than if you shake it into your coffee, because that's gives it kind of a bright flavor, whereas this is much more earthy because you're doing, it's tree bark. So anyway, kind of shake that down in there, and then I use about a tablespoon of salted butter, and in the steep, and when you stir it, it gives you this beautiful, beautiful chocolate patina on top. It's just gorgeous. Let that steep, and it does make you poo, that's for sure. It does that's how I ensure a good morning constitutional, right? We call it potty coffee. No, we really do. So steep it. All the directions say 4 minutes, but because I come in at about 208 degrees on the water, steep it just for a tiny bit less, about 3 minutes and 35 seconds is usually where it lands. And then I use I know this is going to kill you, about 3 to 4 ounces of heavy cream. That's 40% milk fat, heavy cream, that is warmed to about 170 degrees. And then I froth it. Sort of like a flat white. Take a milk frother and froth that stuff up. My wife prefers nothing else, and so it comes out very much like a flat white or a very wet cappuccino. I prefer just a touch of actual vanilla and just like 2 little shakes of sugar, and no, it's not Taster's Choice, I promise you. That's not even coffee, man. That's like brown water. What is that? No. No, I'll make you some. In fact, the first time when I had really begun perfecting this is about, 10, 11, 12 years ago, something like that. My brother had come up for a visit, and he's not usually a coffee drinker. He drinks some of it. And then, hey, Red Pill Paul, welcome. And so he tried it, and he's like, oh my God, it's like coffee, only way better. Like, I know. It'll give you a heart attack if people knew what was in it. They'd be like, holy shit. It's like, I'm a flat white. Thanks, Mark. I'm also hideously white. I'm very melanin challenged. Anyway, so that's the coffee recipe, but you got to put your intention into the water as you're doing it. And a pinch of salt. Yes. So, Brian, but why the salted butter? That little bit of salt makes a lot of difference. And it's, oh my God, I can't even tell you. It's just so off the charts. Anyway, enough about coffee. Let's get into the weirdness of the day. All right. Hallelujah, Moses, let my people go. We're talking about the Exodus today, the great Exodus. So, yeah. How do I set this up? Okay, so there has been over, the last several. I don't have all my stuff here. I was just noodling around. Let's see if I can get to some of these things. So there has been over the last few months, I guess, I'll just switch over here and show you a couple of things. People that are ready to get off social media. We know what a mess it's become, right? Certainly Facebook is the largest social media provider. And most of the folks here are probably on Facebook or some form of social media. Not everyone. Some people, fastidiously stay away, and I certainly understand. I've been on Facebook in one form or another. 2008 something, no, 2006-ish, right after it. In fact, when I first joined, it was still only for college students, and I had to say that I was a college student because I was renting a room out, or had intended to, and several people, I was kind of, trying to do background looks at people that were potentially going to rent a room in our home, and some of them had a Facebook accounts, and so you couldn't see it at the time without having a Facebook account yourself. So, Brian, good for you. Hey, Ceiling Fan Man, yes, let's get together. I will make you some of that coffee. If you're a coffee drinker, I think you will enjoy it a great deal. Yeah, anyway, so I wanted to, I don't know, cyber stalk people or whatever, but see what their Facebook profile looked like. And so at the time, I had I had to say that I was a college student, but I was also teaching, so I could get around that by being an educator. So I didn't have to lie about it. And yeah, you know what? I used Craft Bear make some amazing vanilla ice cream, and one of my great creations. I'll have to bring it up some pictures sometime of that. Is it was maple candied bacon ice cream. So candied bacon, I make what I call meat candy, which is bacon, and it's essentially got a brown sugar glaze on it with a little bit of walnuts, and then it gets crispy. And I break that up into little pieces, and also some candied pecans, and then some maple in the ice cream with a little bit of vanilla. You don't even know. It'll just, yeah, I love food, right? I always get really kind of scared. There's a there's a verse in the Bible that says, people whose God is in their belly, and I keep thinking I'm going to get in trouble for that because I love food. I love to make food. I love to serve people. I love to serve people amazing food. And people often have asked why I don't become a professional chef. And I'm like, because then it would be work, right? I do it because I love it, and I love to serve people. And I love to see the delight. I don't know. It's just a thing. I love to make people happy. Anyway, back to Facebook. So, yeah, I've been a member of Facebook for a very long time. And initially, it was really kind of interesting. Right away, it started suggesting people that, like I went to grade school with. People that long ago. And so it was interesting, I think, at first to catch up with some of them. Some of them, you go, yeah, I wasn't friends with them then. No reason to be friends with them now, because they hadn't changed. But some people have changed, and it was a delight to see how people have grown over the years. Some of them and become really, really good people. And then I started meeting other people, and of course, you get those who, most relationships are built on a foundation of similarities, that you have things in common. And one thing sort of led to another. And then, of course, what we see, and I don't think this is news to anybody, that Facebook began the day after the CIA program called, what was it, LifeLock or whatever, Life something. Anyway, don't tell me. I don't care. Anyway, I'm turning into Paul Romano. Don't tell me, I don't care. Anyway, so this thing was basically to look for associations with people and that sort of thing. And good morning, Rose. It's a pleasure to see you here. So anyway, the idea was to monitor people based on their relationships and associations, and that would, again, any time you aggregate metadata, you can tell a lot of things. The more data you have, the more you can tell about people and their motivations and what they do and what they're like. And so the entire idea, going back even to MySpace, I had a MySpace account because my kids did, and they wanted me to get on there. And it's like, it was weird. But, Tom didn't do any of the Zuckerberg stuff. He wasn't a dick. He's like, hey, man, you should have just kept me going because, anyway. So, obviously, Facebook, it's pretty clear at the outset that it is simply a tool to, again, anytime something is free, you are the product. Right. We can pretty much just say that with, I rarely say things with any positive claims and certainty, but that's one I think you can pretty much count on is that anytime something like this is free, you are the product. You're being served up to, they would say advertisers, but that's really a secondary or tertiary thing down the line. What really is happening, of course, is they're gathering all your data and all your associations and the way that you think. And this is the sort of thing that you see people all the time. Even normies freak out about how they'll think about something like, hey, I need to get new sheets. And they don't even say it. They don't look for it. And all of a sudden, advertisements for sheets show up on their Facebook timeline. And they just, oh, by the way, almost every single ad that I've ever seen on Facebook for a product, especially the ones recently that say, oh, we're going out of business because of the, lockdowns, blah, blah. It's all crap. Like I tried ordering a couple of things and now it's just, they're all ripoffs. I was lucky enough to get my money back out of a couple of them very early on. But it's interesting how Facebook is so concerned that, you might say something to the effect of, I'm not a doctor, but this is the cure. And they show a picture of the band, The Cure. And then they'll say we removed it because it can be harmful information about COVID-19. Like, really, I actually saw somebody get zucked for that picture. I should bring up that meme. It's pretty funny. So we've seen a variety of things occur. So one, it's an information gathering platform primarily. And again, we often say we have to, move things. We use their technology for our own purposes, just like money, right? So we know that money is, it's a fiat currency, and it provides the basics for what people kind of call the beast system, and it's sort of it ups in. We give our consent by taking and using this money that's valueless, other than the faith of the people. But it serves our purposes to a degree that allows us to trade with other people and buy and sell things and that sort of stuff. So in a similar way, social media platforms, they are, I wouldn't say a necessary evil, and I'll talk about that more this morning, but certainly they are, it's a platform, it's a tool. And so, yeah, they, again, they use it as a information gathering. And also what we've seen more and more is that I watched it occur over the last 3 years especially, is that they create echo chambers, and they tend to show you things either like-minded or things that they know specifically you're going to react badly to, right? So when you put the angry face or whatever on there, they'll pitch you one, they'll kind of troll you, and they'll pitch you a couple of those things, and they will do that to me from time to time. They know all my preferences, right? They can to a degree predict my movements as well, but they'll pitch stuff to me that they know I have no interest in whatsoever, and just sort of to troll me. It's actually kind of funny. So they create these echo chambers, right? So once you kind of get into groups and that sort of thing, and then to some degree people do it themselves. You begin to ban people or block them. When they say something offensive or inflammatory. Some people do it, willy-nilly. Like anybody that says anything they don't like, if they don't agree with them, they're the enemy, right? You're Satan because you don't believe the same way I do. It's pretty silly. I certainly am not like that. I'm fascinated usually by other people's viewpoints because I want to understand better. And often, it feeds, it either confirms or changes my position. So the more information I get, I've been called by some people a data junkie because I want to know everything, right? All the data. The more data I have, the better informed decision I can make, even if the data is false. Many times people, they dissemble a great deal, and so they'll say things trying to not, sometimes they'll try not to lie, or they'll try to, dance around an issue. And so some things become glaringly apparent by their absence, things that they do not say. And I apply the same sort of thing to news narratives, that sort of stuff. But often you can tell with any sort of public announcement that's live, you can kind of tell by what they say, what they don't say, where they're uncomfortable, looking at body language, that sort of thing. And a similar thing occurs within social media. In the context of social media, of course, has created an entire genre, a whole new thing called the keyboard warrior. And you all know what that is. I'm sure you've interacted with them from time to time. You've got trolls, people who wish to behave that way, as well as some people appear to be professional trolls. Like, how else could they spend literally 16 plus hours a day and kind of copy and paste. I mean, some of them probably bots and that sort of stuff, right? And then you get the Russian bots that, change opinion and influence the election while people are, themselves trying to influence the election. And so there's a variety of different things going on out there. And we all know that it is, it's crap. And then come the fact checkers, right? So the fact checkers come in and they would... So again, you see this. I'm ready to leave Facebook. Any suggestions? And so there's an entire group right now called Exodus on Facebook, over 5,000 members of people who are planning to leave. And largely, one of the things is because of this deal right here. Effective October 1st, 2020, Section 3.2 of our Terms of Service will be updated to include, we can also now remove or restrict access to your content, services, or information if we determine that doing so is reasonably necessary to avoid or mitigate adverse legal or regulatory impacts to Facebook. It sounds like they're covering their own ass. However, some of that, again, it implies that, again, they just do whatever they want to. If they don't like it, basically, they're going to pull you down. And so we've seen this over and over. I moderate a couple of groups, and we often get the indication from the folks at our friendly Facebook folks that, somebody posted something that's false, and so the quality of your group is in danger, and we might pull your group down if people keep putting false information up there, like actual information that's released from the CDC and that sort of stuff. Like, we don't want that. And of course, it's very clear, and it's been said that when they cut out a man's tongue, it's not because he's telling lies, it's because they're afraid that he's going to tell the truth, and that's certainly clear. No, they didn't have fact checkers until people began to wake up, and so this is the kind of thing we see. And so there's a large number of people who are planning to exit Facebook specifically. Perhaps again, Twitter is another major platform that has been banning and deplatforming people. Certainly, we know YouTube. That's where we are now, Vernon Coleman did what he called his last YouTube video this week, and I've been a big, I don't say big fan. I'm not really a fanboy of anybody, but I love Vernon Coleman's The Old Man in the Chair. He does a terrific job of breaking things down, and of course I love his accent, and I love his calm demeanor. And so, but we've seen a variety of people, and again, interestingly, it started with, notably with Alex Jones, who I think most people understand is controlled opposition. Not that everything he says is wrong. I mean, certainly, especially at the beginning, he put out a lot of factual information, but again, in a delivery manner that made it very easy to dismiss because he just went crazy, right? Like, gay frogs, and it's going to hell in a handbasket. It's just going crazy. And so it makes it, easy to dismiss. And so that's the sort of thing. So he was one of the notable first guys to get, deplatformed from the major social media platforms and anybody who spoke in support of him. And so it became pretty obvious within the first few hours that all that was going on. This is, again, sort of the canary in the coal mine, or the Overton window, where they are, again, one of the results was they got a large percentage of people to applaud that decision to deplatform him, because he's crazy, right? And he's a sweaty meatball. Yeah, again, whatever you think about him, and again, I know what he is. I don't follow or listen to him, anymore. I did for a number of months or whatever until I got all the information I needed and moved on. And nothing really has changed much since then in terms of what information he's putting out. So ultimately, but again, many people applauded that decision and that action because he didn't deserve to be there. And of course, what you're doing then is applauding the destruction of the idea of freedom of speech. Right? And it's often been said that I may disagree, vehemently with what you say, but I will fight to the death to defend your ability to say it. And I definitely agree with that. The freedom of speech, the idea is not to protect you from things that you don't like, but protect everybody's ability to speak openly and present ideas, even if those ideas are offensive. Yeah, Jay Armstrong, right? So, like years back, I read that Facebook was responsible for so many marriages disintegrating. I think I don't think necessarily responsible. It just gave the opportunity, right? Because people began reconnecting with old flames, or they'd meet people. For some people, especially adults, it was kind of their first foray into, what way back AOL chat rooms and that sort of stuff. So talking to people online, and so those people who felt like, again, there's some anonymity, or they had the ability to, kind of cheat without going to a bar and being seen with somebody, they would begin these online relationships, and then one thing led to another. But there's so much more than that, right? The relationships that sometimes begin or oftentimes end on Facebook or other social media platforms, kind of the result of, again, I have for a long time called these anti-social media, because they're anything but social. What they foster and foment is a separation between people, not a connection between people. And by this, I mean this idea that again, we self-organize into groups. And, one of the things, the subject of race relations has been fairly obviously pushed forward of late with all these demonstrations and BLM and all this stuff. And I don't want to get too deeply into that, but it was part of the conversation. And I've spoken to a number of people of, different backgrounds and races. And one of the experiences I had in the late 1970s, my family moved from the Seattle area to north central Texas. And, a place that at the time a lot of people considered racist, but I didn't really see much of it. I absolutely did see some of it, and people who would regularly use, the dreaded N-word, and some people who were overtly hostile to other races and cultures. Although a lot of it at the time was actually toward Hispanics more than the black community. But there was some there. And to be honest, and again, this is... sometimes I hesitate to tell these things because people always get their own ideas, but I can't really control what people think. But I did, I did go to private school all my life except for 1 year. I went to public school to play football. And what I noted there, a number of different things. One of the things was that I had always previously heard that, the public is stupid. And I never believed it. I just thought, that's just, they just want us to think that we're stupid. They're trying to tell you that you're stupid. And then I went to public school and I was like, oh my God. I was not familiar with the idea of like remedial classes or honors classes. Just didn't have anything like that in private school. And what was, remedial class, mind-blowingly, because even the regular stuff was just straightforward, dumbed down. Even what was called the honors classes wouldn't have qualified as a, quote, remedial class where I went to school. You were expected to do, do the work and understand the material. And in public school, my impression certainly was that they just wanted to get you out of there. Right? The very bare minimum requirements just to get you gone. They had no interest whatsoever in your education. One or two teachers who were fairly good, but they were so burnt out that they might take an interest in a student, but they also, sort of like first responders in many ways, they don't want to get too emotionally involved because they're just going to get burnt, right? It's always a disappointment. So they they just didn't really care, and some of them were openly hostile to students. Well, anyway, people there. One of the things that I saw, because it was a much larger school than I was used to, and there were roughly 1,900 kids in the school, something to that effect. And again, previous like the entire school that I'd been to previously was 300, something like that. So, if that gives you any idea. In terms of a high school. So quite a qualitative difference there. But one of the things, again, is that people self-organize themselves into cliques. And so I think that's true with every group, but it was certainly much more apparent in this setting, in that you had definitely there, it was very well organized, structured. There was the jocks, right? So you had the jocks. Hey, Cammie, how are you? We have the jocks, you had the rockers, you had the stoners, and rockers and stoners kind of back and forth, but you had sort of the nerds, the preppies, you know, so you have these very the goat ropers, right? The cowboy group, and so colonoscopy, right? Not hopefully not this one. This is now the son. That would be an asteroid. Anyway, so they self-organize themselves into groups exactly. Call for zero. That's exactly what I'm talking about. And there was some hostility between some of the groups. For example, the Cowboys and the Rockers, right? So the Rocker Stoners and the Cowboys would occasionally get into fights, and for no other reason than it was not a very big town, and so they're just kind of looking for something to do, and so you always get those aggressive types, and or you get the jocks that want to beat up the nerds, that sort of thing. But and so I would say as a percentage, there was probably about less than 20%. So probably 16, 17%, something like that, of the school was African American. And in that town, there literally was the wrong side of the tracks, right? There literally was railroad tracks right where it began, where most of the African American community lived. And there was some self-segregation there, but what I noted is there wasn't really a lot of hostility between races so much as it was cultures, right? So it was far more hostility between white kids of different cultures, the rockers and the jocks and different stuff, than there was the African Americans. Right? They had kind of their own culture for the most part, but they were all fairly friendly. And again, there was a few of the redneck cowboys that were overtly racist, but they didn't go over. That didn't go over very well. I mean, again, we're talking in the 1980s, early 1980s here, and by that time, it was not cool to be a redneck racist. It simply wasn't cool. However, and so I didn't have much experience with racism, overt racism beyond that. In fact, growing up in the Seattle area, I think it was one or two other children that I went to school with that were darker complected, and most of those were, from the islands, right? So either the Indies or the Caribbean islands. So they weren't. I didn't even notice them being different from me, other than they had an accent. Right? They were pretty much all the same, until I went to work in Dallas, and I was immediately, because of my very fair skin, immediately confronted with overt racism, but from the African American community. I worked at a music store, and then we would get sometimes African Americans come in, and they were, some of them, overtly hateful from the moment they walked in, because I was, very light skinned and had blonde hair. And they just hated me right away. And it's like, I was like, wow. And had I been, I suppose, of a different temperament, I would have taken umbrage to that and wanted to fight back. And I just, instinctively knew that largely because they had been themselves, oppressed. And so there was a tendency to push back. Well, again, I didn't want to get too much into that, other than to say that people tend to self-segregate. They do this because we organize ourselves, that we're comfortable with what we know. And what has happened is more recently, and again, using social media to foment this, but as well as the electronic media, the news and that sort of thing, what we see is that they polarize, right? They supercharge this hostility. So not just affinity for the same groups, but a hostility toward others. So anyone who is not in your group then is out. I see a lot of ones there. This must be the typical Joey Rocha BLM as a cult. Yeah, I'll throw a one in there. Yeah, it's an organized terrorist group. That's what it is. I just say lives matter, right? But again, at a certain extent, people have a tendency to organize into tribes, right? We just do that. That's what we do, and we want to be part of something bigger than ourselves. And especially as they begin to tear down the fabric of society, beginning with families, right? So here we have the family unit being torn down, and so to replace this, we have to find something else. And so, for example, in the inner cities, this often is gangs, especially those children who grow up without a father figure or a man in the household. They're looking for that sort of leadership. So they kind of migrate to gangs, right? These guys seem like they're really doing something, gangstas, right? So they join that because they need to be. We have a need for acceptance. It's a human need that we need to be accepted. And so looking for a group that will be accepting of us, right, and that we can connect to. And so we have this. And so moreover, when we get into taking a look at the modern sort of construct, right, is these groups then are organized now more by ideological premise. And so you have the far left, you have the SJW type, you got these Antifas, Patriot Prayer, right? So they have us organizing and self-organizing into tribes based on ideology. And I've said before that people don't have ideas. Ideas have people. And so they sell and again, you can see this very clearly. They've been doing this over time. For example, North America, they sell you this two-party system. And so they polarize and make enemies of each other. So you've got the Republican and the Democratic Party. And again, I have said very frequently that from my perspective, it seems like the primary and really the singular platform of both political parties is simply to prove the other to be wholly unfit to hold office. And in that one respect, they are both spectacularly accurate. But what they've done, again, is to polarize these groups. So there are very few people in, let's say, either of those political parties who would have come up with the platform themselves. Right, so it gets handed to them, and then they get sold on this idea. And the same often is true with religions. You get sold on a belief system, and then you must defend that belief system. And anybody who is outside of that, again, in a religion, is apostate, right? They are the infidel. Catholics will refer to other people not of their faith as non-Catholics. So then you're supposed to, look down on them. Mormons do the same thing. They call other people non-Mormons, and they consider themselves, gods. And so anybody else is beneath them, and so they can behave however they want. And you see this in spades. I lived in Salt Lake City for a number of years, and you see this come out in, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. So they have these beliefs about themselves, and so they have this sort of condescending attitude. Now they would say that they're nice to everybody, and of course they put on this face of being super nice, but ultimately, right? We all have this sort of myopic worldview that we cannot see ourselves. We have this blind spot. We cannot see ourselves. And so if anybody pushes back on them and says, hey, you're being an asshole. Oh, you're Mormon bashing. It's like, no, I had no idea you were Mormon other than the way you were acting and that the very clear, apparition that you're wearing Jesus jammies. I love how they often the men will open their the top button, couple of buttons on their collar, so you can very clearly see that they're wearing the Jesus jammies underneath. That's pretty awesome to make sure that they're a good Mormon. It's kind of virtue signaling. So they do this back and forth. So ultimately, again, what I'm trying to get to is this premise that we already, it's just human psychology, that we're going to identify with groups and sort of align with one another naturally. And so they will say it's your vibe that makes your tribe. And this is certainly apparent to a degree on social media, again, anti-social media, where we tend to, be drawn toward those of similar ideas. But also, again, what they've done is continue to aggravate the situation and exacerbate it to the point where people become very hostile very quickly and immediately began calling names and throwing epithets and ad hominem attacks at anybody who doesn't agree with you. And it's pretty funny. And then they I see over and over that people won't they don't accept it. I saw an interaction the other day. It was just it's funny if it wasn't so sad. Somebody jumps in and see completely unrelated to the original post, and they attacked the original poster, and using the typical swear words, that sort of stuff, and then they said, bring it on, give me some facts, blah blah blah. And of course they didn't bring any facts of their own. They just shouting down how everybody was stupid. And then when they people calmly put back facts, they're like, no, they don't want to argue that. They just want to keep swearing and saying how stupid everybody is. And then finally, somebody comes in and says, "Hey, no, you didn't put any facts out there. You're behaving in this way." And then, again, they dissemble and go, "Oh, well, I value the opinions of others, and I don't know why you guys got to be so hateful, and I didn't do anything wrong." It's like, shall we have screenshots? Here, let's go through this list. You came in hot. You started yelling at everybody. You came in condescending, and acted like an asshole. No, you guys are just on an ego trip. And so again, projection is one of the very first things you see. They're exactly projecting what they did and wouldn't even acknowledge their own behavior. So, yeah, exactly. A building tunnel, I know. You saw it. Yeah. So, but these are the kind of behaviors that we see. And again, it becomes very easy to adopt these things. And one of the things that I noticed, for example, when I lived in Salt Lake City, is it's some of the worst driving around. And by that, I mean, I live in Seattle now, and we've got categorically for decades, we've been known as having some of the crappiest traffic, worse even than LA. And I lived in Los Angeles, worse even than Los Angeles traffic. Is Seattle traffic is really horrible, and in part because we have these terrain modifiers, right? You got the water and the mountains, and there's not a lot of place you can go. And then they run the interstate highway right through the city and close it down to basically one lane to get through. So it's poorly designed, and they weren't ready for the They just didn't have the infrastructure for the influx of people moving up from California from the mid '90s through. It's continued. Through now. So they just didn't have the infrastructure for it. So traffic just got really, really bad. But I got to tell you, of all the places that I've lived, and again, living in Texas, people just drive really fast there. So, but one of the things about Salt Lake City, right? So this is a good way I'd kind of describe it, right? People in Los Angeles are crappy. Well, they're good drivers. They're just assholes. Right, they just give you the finger and go. People in Seattle, there's not really any other place you can go. And they're very self-absorbed. So they get very irritated at other people who are stuck in the same traffic as they are for the slightest slight. All right, so road rage is kind of a thing here. So in different places, right? But Salt Lake City, people were very poor drivers, not good drivers, and assholes. Again, in part because they feel like they're gods. And so they will frequently, if you're trying to get to an exit, they'll cut you off, make sure that you can't merge, just like constantly. They just do it all the time. And after a couple of years of it, you get not only kind of sick of it, but it's kind of the only way to navigate is you got to kind of behave like they do. You got to nudge your way in and do the old, thing where you're looking left and then nudging your car right, and they looks like to them that you don't see them, and so they have to hit the brakes and get out of your way, and you've been watching them very closely in your side eye. You learn these tricks, and it's the way to navigate. And so what happens is you acclimate to it, and over time, what happens? Yeah, Jeremiah, right? I mean, again, I'm not trying to bash anybody. I'm just saying this is the situation that occurs there, and. So what you see is that, again, you begin to adopt these behaviors in order to navigate. And so, wise friend of mine there, he said, it used to be them, and now I'm pretty sure it's me. Right. So we do this exact same kind of thing. We adopt these sort of behaviors in the construct of social media. People began, and I noticed this very clearly, for example, in flat Earth community specifically, is that at the very beginning, people kind of have questions, and so they start asking questions. They're a little tentative at first. Hey, could it really be flat? That sort of thing. And so immediately you see the trolls that come out, right? And they immediately start yelling at them, "You're stupid," blah blah blah. And then the few who do have sort of the courage and the temerity to stand up. And like, for example, Jaron Campanella, Jaronism, was one of the early guys that come up, did a Facebook or a YouTube channel, ODD TV, right? Some of the early guys that came out took a lot of heat, right? They had really thick skin, and they took a lot of heat from people saying you should drink bleach and, kill yourself and never procreate. No, just the craziest stuff that people would say. So not everybody has that kind of thick skin. And so after a while, you get sick of it, right? And you begin pushing back. And you see this happening. So I don't know if people are familiar with a YouTube channel, Nathan Oakley's Flat Earth Debate. And it was disappointing to me to see, while the arguments are really pretty solid, what they have there, they again, come off really, in my opinion, very harshly and very emotionally immature. It weakens their arguments, right? Because you don't have to behave that way, especially when you're right. Especially when you have the information on your side, there is no need for that, and it weakens and damages your position to behave in such a manner. Again, I'm not attacking anybody. I'm just giving you my views on stuff. It's always the behavior that I'm going to look at. It's not the person. It's like personalities don't really affect me that much, right? And I'm not really for or against. I mean, there's some people I really like, right? So like Jason and Rose, for example, we became friends, and I like them. Yeah, right. I understand, Bob. I've been that again. I'm not. My point is not to bash anybody personally, right? It's just there are just things I think are unnecessary, but it's easy to understand, right? So the thing is like, yeah, I'm not saying it's right, but I understand it. I understand that after being put down and yelled at and belittled for a while, when you have a solid position and you can kind of piss down their neck, you kind of want to do it, right? It's like now time for some comeuppance, and but again, from my perspective, if you want to be higher minded, if you want to be an adult, those kind of things aren't necessary, right? And you just don't need to do that. And again, I think that I just want to see, yeah, yeah, right. Hey, exactly, Bob. I Glowbuster. I get that, right? And that's why I can't do it. It hurts my soul, right? When I hear people do that, it's not me, right? And so again, I can't tell anybody else what to do or how to behave. I just say it's not for me. And I really try to, comport myself in a manner that is as I would want to be, right? And so when we get, we see this a lot. Back to social media, we see this behavior quite a lot in social media. So yeah, again, I don't see it as being necessary. But all that to get here, right? So what we have now is little tribes and groups in social media, and then here we come up onto an election. And I've seen some very interesting things, and so I want to just approach some of these ideas about what's happening. Rose, you said yes to what? Debate? Who contacted you to debate? What? Nathan Oakley? What? I don't know. Just it's a nice old man named Mark. I don't know. Let me know what's going on there. I'm confused. All right. So we've got okay. So keep in mind that let's take another look here real quick at in the last week. And Rose and I talked about this in Poppycock Report, right? About the gal Zoe in Australia who was purportedly arrested for incitement pregnant gal, right? And there's a lot of questions about whether that's legitimate or not. And I'm not, I'm not. I don't make claims either way on that sort of stuff. I can just say I'm uncertain, or I kind of lean this way. It just feels disingenuous to me. But here's one thing I'll say for certain is that it is definitely being used to perform a certain task, right? And the fact that it appeared in mainstream media definitely. Supports my thought about whether it is a psyop or not, whether it's actually a legitimate arrest or not. It serves the same function, which is to get people afraid to talk openly on social media. How do I know this? Well, it's because exactly what they said. I saw a clip of the news report, Channel 9 News in Australia, and that was exactly what they wrapped up with, was these guys are serious. So if you're thinking about, making a post or blah, blah, don't do it because they're going to come get you. So this is exactly what they're trying to foster. And we see this constantly, for example, on what I now call the Pink Floyd incident, the thing with George Floyd. When I first saw that video, of course, one of the things is that it became viral very quickly, but immediately it tries to pull at your emotions, right? So that is one thing to look out for immediately, is you have to look at these things with a sort of detached viewpoint. And so you can look and really critically assess everything that's going on, because as soon as you go over into this emotional state, your logic shuts off, especially for men, right? So again, women are bilateral, and so they think everything they feel and feel everything they think. And so they're very tied up emotionally in it. Well, whereas men are compartmentalized. And so when we switch from one to the other, we can be in a logical state of mind. As soon as we go emotional, we lose our rationality completely. And so when you get the men arguing, right, they just lose their fucking mind. And they'll do very silly things. Yeah. Anyway, point here being, when they use these sorts of things to, again, foment and exacerbate these polarizations. And so I immediately saw what was happening with, the George Floyd thing, is because it was going to separate people. You got the one group who are, sick and tired of what has absolutely been going on, which is the oppression of not just the African American community, but poor people, any disadvantaged group, any immigrant group, right? Depending on the town and what the social dynamics are there, the law enforcement community always goes after those who can't fight back or can't push back in any way, always. It's like, they're bored and they need something to do, so they're going to pick on people who can't fight back. And so in many places, especially the urban centers, this is going to be African American community. They don't have the resources often to fight back or push back, and so they just get away with doing whatever they want. And so we've seen this for decades. That we've seen the wanton murder, really, of people, and then but this comes out in the media, right? And so they push on the one hand this narrative, but on the other hand, they'll always choose somebody who has a criminal record. So you get those bootlickers on the other side going, well, they deserved it. If you'd have just done what they told you, boy, you wouldn't have had no problem now, would you? You know what I'm talking about, right? Those guys with blue tongues. And I'm going to support those police, and God bless America and military. And yeah. So we have those two groups, and it just lights them up against each other. And so this is exactly the situation you see with the George Floyd incident, right? Is that you have seemingly, right, completely dispassionate cops just kneeling on this guy's neck until he dies for no reason. Well, people are saying, hey, man, get off of him. And then, of course, you have the other side, which is like, yeah, see what that so-and-so did, drug dealer and rapist and counterfeit. And yeah, he just done what he told him. He'd have been fine. Mm-hmm. So don't think that these aren't for reasons. Well, now, so let me move forward here back into this idea of what's happening on social media, right, is that there is an organized push, this Exodus group, right, to get off social media, which generally I support, right, because it does... Again, it does very poorly for some people, especially those who are not emotionally mature. Those who are easily offended will respond in a certain way. And they go on these rampages. Yeah, I agree, Bob. I think that one was fully staged, and it's demonstrably so. That was fake. The thing in Australia, again, I don't know for sure. I wasn't there, but there are some very suspicious things about it. And again, irrespective of whether it was real or not, they used it for a specific purpose, which is to silence people. Right? And so we're seeing this exact same thing, of course, on social media. And picking on Facebook because I know it well, and many people are on it, and it serves a variety of these purposes. But one thing that interests me is always take a look at who stands to benefit. That's always what I look at. Who stands to benefit? And one of the things that we can clearly say with social media, especially with people getting off social media, is the timing is very interesting because, so here's the one I'm talking about. Here's the this video, Zoe, I'm sure you've seen it, but one of the things, again, that immediately I noticed was how viral it went on social media. And of course, one could make the argument, well, it's going to be the case whenever something is emotionally traumatic. People want to, push back on it or highlight it. But immediately it found its way into mainstream news, and that was a very clear indicator that there was something afoot. And so I'm always kind of looking for those indications. Who stands to benefit? And so I was scrolling through here because I was trying to find, in this particular group, I saw a thing, and I didn't get it, but I've seen it also from a variety of different places. Here we go. So there are people doing a, what they're saying is a research project and doing a poll, and they're paying them to get off Facebook for up to 6 weeks, 1 week to 6 weeks. Willing to deactivate your account for both time periods and not use Facebook during that time. When is it? Late September. All right, so do the math. This is right before the U.S. election. And so who does that stand to benefit? They're going to pay you up to $25 a week for 6 weeks, from 1 to 6 weeks, to get off social media. And so you've got that, as well as this giant push to get off social media when, well, again, they've been very hard pushing this October 1st date, right? So they keep telling me, I think I've gotten a dozen notifications so far. They really want me to know that effective October 1st, 2020, that they're going to change things. So who stands to benefit from this? Right. Well, if you're creating an echo chamber, right, you can do a certain, you can make some assumptions. So we have that. Just want you to think it through. So one aspect of this is a lot of people leaving social media. So here are some options. MeWe was one of the first ones that I saw. It pretends to be a lot like Facebook, but it has exactly the same sort of censorship, fact-checking sort of stuff as you see on Facebook. So, and I didn't care for the interface very much, so there's that. You've got Parler, there's another one, and again, from I haven't joined it, but from all the things I've seen, all the things that I've seen, it's pretty much it says free expression. No, they're immediately censoring people. You got Sphere, and this is a little bit more tech oriented. You look into that. Gab, as you can tell, this looks very much like Facebook. In fact, almost indistinguishable except for the color scheme. Very slight differences in this interface. I don't know much about it. Just have that up. We've got VK is another one, primarily European based, but as you can see, even the color scheme very similar. It's almost again indistinguishable from Facebook. So, with that in mind, are they trying to herd people from one pin to another? Mark, I think that is exactly what's going on. Is they're trying to, they've gotten people addicted to the nature of social media and our ability to stay in touch with each other. And again, I appreciate it. I mean, I met most of you people through social media in one way or another. And so I absolutely appreciate that aspect of it. So what's going to happen come October 1st? Well, I expect that sooner or later, I'll be taken down for my positions. I'm not. Those of you who do know me on social media know that I don't, as Tarjay Baldini, I don't, I don't make a lot of posts other than really to promote the show and just kind of chime in here and there and support other people's material as well. As myself, I don't usually post a lot in terms of. Yeah, I just make funny stuff. And in fact, at one point, long before I even considered doing a podcast or anything like that of this nature, I did consider doing a podcast of just the same sort of stuff I would put up on social media. Funny pictures and memes and, a funny look at the news. But Rose and I do that now with the Poppycock Report, primarily the news. So not really necessary. And I don't know, I don't know. It's sort of somewhat less interactive than it would be, social media. I think, again, the large issue with social media has to do with people's behaviors, less so than the platform itself. Does Facebook suck? Oh, yes. I've known hookers in Vegas that didn't suck as bad as, as bad as Mark Zuckerberg. And I don't know any personally hookers in Vegas. I'm just saying. I'm just making a point. So don't jump down my throat and go, he said. No, I don't know any hookers in Vegas personally. But I've seen them. I have seen them. But what I'm saying is that, Facebook sucks real bad. But I think you're going to get that everywhere, right? It's and largely it's the behavior of people, right? Have you seen, you've seen comments on, you've seen comments on YouTube, right? Some of the grossest stuff around. So, you don't have to, I don't know. You don't have to look too far to see people behave poorly. And I see it, what's interesting to watch from a sociological standpoint is that this has leaked out into IRL, in real life. And mass calls are a perfect example of that. Right. So I have mentioned several times that even though Seattle is one of the most fastidious about this whole mask up thing and the lockdowns, we were one of the first to do it. And people, almost every, in fact, we're under state mandate for quite a while now that you must wear a face covering to go into any business. And yet I don't do it. Why? I just say I have a medical exemption and for the most part, it's no problem. And I do it with a smile. So I don't harsh anybody. I don't make a big scene. And that's largely in delivery, right? I have seen people argue and that sort of stuff, and then it doesn't go well. But I haven't really had too much of a problem, except for with mask holes, the other people. You need to wear a mask. Well, you need to lose 50 pounds. If we're sharing, health advice. Yeah. One of the ones I use most often is, you can't come in here without a mask. I'm like, thanks for your concern. But it's not your concern, really. I'm just nice, I just smile. And to where the places that know me, they give me all kind of accommodation. They don't care. Local Starbucks. Every now and then you'll get a new employee there. Somebody doesn't know me. And, they'll say, oh, you need to wear a mask. And I'm like, yeah, I have a medical exemption. You can bring it outside to me if you want. That's fine. I just smile. I'm like, I'm not trying to break your rules, but I'm not trying to break mine either. And that's my approach. So, but what I see is this same behavior that we notice on social media and the vitriol at opprobrium that gets tossed around. People are comfortable in doing it in real life. And that is pretty remarkable to me. And it's not just the youngsters. You'd think it would be limited to the youngsters who grew up with this sort of keyboard warrior society. But in some cases, it's actually the older folks that do that. People that are over 50, even over 60. They're very comfortable in saying some really, really bad, hateful things. And as you know, I'm not down with that. So what to do? Well, the other part that I was going to get into, and I won't go too much because I've kind of run longer than I anticipated with that, and I do have another segment that I wanted to touch on today. So, yeah, exactly, Rose. That is exactly what I say. Thanks for your concern, but it's not really your concern. But I did want to touch on another thing, so let me just sort of wrap here. There's also groups, and I'm a part of a group on social media that on Facebook that is specific to trying to exit us in terms of just society and get out. And this is where I'm going to kind of transition and segue into the next part of I hate saying the show. It's not really a show. Our gathering today, our online church. I don't know. That's usually on Sunday. But many of us are really tired of what we see. I mean, and certainly we've talked about this quite a bit, that it seems like they have dropped all pretense and fakery. They're really, they think they can do things out in the open. They are very openly performing Luciferian rituals in award shows on television, music videos, within media. They're just pretty open about it now. It's not hidden anymore. And it seems as though, again, it's like the sprint for the finish. We've seen more social engineering go down in the first 6 months of 2020 than I've seen in 5 years prior, easily. And so, what does it all mean? Well, certainly, those people who have been looking to, embrace a sort of off-grid lifestyle and exit, right? Especially those who are into natural law, self-sustaining, that sort of stuff, looking into it. And so, I'm a part of a group for that. I've been nudged in my spirit to begin moving in that direction. And largely, my sense of it is I would love to go go to South America, and, because I think ultimately, frankly, and again, I don't want to be Chicken Little here. That's not my point. And I know I take some heat from people who say, we can fix it, we can turn it around, we're going to win this war. And I think ultimately the outcome will be good, is the way I read it. But I just see it, differently. I think we all have the opportunity to see things the way we do, and it's okay. But again, I look at this and I think any of these, anything like that is going to be definitely temporary. Because it's called the New World Order, they want to take over everything, and so certainly, most of the people that I interact with are, in the English-speaking world. So that's going to be part of the Five Eyes, United States and the UK, New Zealand, Australia. And strangely, Finland. I've got a number of listeners in Finland. Hi, guys. How you doing? It's great to have you here, my friends. I would love to come visit. But point being that most people within our group are in North America, specifically Canada and the United States. And so, did we wait too long to get out? Well, here's the thing: is yeah, okay, I understand, Jason. So, here's the thing: is that we're getting into this situation where, if we let's say find there's a group of us and we're looking for some property and that sort of stuff, to see where we can find a place that like-minded people can tribe up and try to have a little bit of freedom there, right? And live life on our terms. And with the understanding, at least from my perspective, that this is a temporary arrangement. If we do it in the United States, even if we look to the laws of different states and see which ones are more free than others, from my perspective, it's going to be a very short-lived operation, because ultimately, with Agenda 21 and Agenda 2030, then I love it, Ceiling Fan Man. Hey, thank you, my friend. Again, I want to come see you and make some coffee, and we'll try to absolutely make that happen. But my feeling on it, right, is that anything done in the U.S. is going to be absolutely temporary. But ultimately, I think even then, no matter where you do it, ultimately they'll come and take control. However, and my current view on it is this: as I balance these things and try to take the pros and the cons about what's happening, my take on it is it's probably, at least again from where I sit right now, it's going to be better to start something here locally. Right, because for logistics purposes, it's a lot easier to do, and mistakes will inevitably be made. I don't think any of us have really done it to this degree at all. There are some people who have earth ships, right, like Kurt, and some folks who are really, Ben Balderson's got his off-grid thing going, so they're really pounding it out, right. But when it comes to a community, right, I don't know anybody who's really taken it that far. to the degree I think that some of us would like to see happen, and what that means. And for a number of years, my wife and I have looked at, we were looking at sociologically and how to solve the problems that we see around us. And of course, very quickly we came to the idea that the system isn't broken; it's fixed. It's working exactly the way it was intended from the very outset. And the deeper you go into looking at the seedy underbelly of history, what you see is that certainly the United States was designed for the very specific purpose of kind of a free-range slave camp with all the trappings of freedom, but with no actual freedom. It's always the carrot that's just out of reach. So we have this beautifully elucidated Constitution, but those who are implementing it are faithless, right? They haven't followed that since they began. And so I often curiously look at people who are believe in it. I mean, again, it's well elucidated. It's a beautiful written document, but you can't count on people to stand by it. Those who are running things simply don't. They're faithless, and they can't be trusted with that. So anyway, we're looking at a variety of different ways to approach it and understanding the nature. And so we did exactly what we're told the founding fathers did when they framed the Constitution of the U.S., which is to look back through history at all these different, political and sociological experiments and ways of approaching things and see what might work and what not. And so we looked at those aspects far more than we did the practical logistics of growing food and that sort of thing. So I think, so where is there to get out to? It's a great question, Nemo. And so at this point, again, my thought is to try to take it kind of to the next level and really, I am right now looking to see how we can get a group together to do something. And probably, again, in North America, probably within the United States, because there's so many people here, but with the idea that it is, for all practical purposes, stage one. It's an experiment, and it is destined in a way, I don't want to say fail, but destined to be a short-term project, because they are going to come after it, especially if it's successful, right? They want to come shut it down. And especially as they move into Agenda 21, Agenda 2030, with the idea of sustainability, meaning specifically that they want to rewild these areas, or that is, keep people in cities, mega cities, and make it illegal under penalty of death to be anywhere outside of that. So, the understanding we may have a very short period of time, certainly just, probably not any more than a decade at the very outside to pursue that. But at least doing it here first would allow us to work out the kinks, because if we go, let's say, Patagonia, right, or Uruguay, or Belize, a few places that I've looked at, what happens is if you make any mistakes, and there are going to be mistakes made, especially in your first attempt, that you're very far from home and you only get one shot at it, right? You've thrown all your money at it and you're done, right? If you make a mistake, it's catastrophic. And so I don't want to see that happen to anybody. So kind of the idea, starting at the outset, right, of doing something local, work out the kinks, and then you can probably either get your money out of it, try to sell it to somebody else, or introduce new people, and then do what it's done often in, in some of the church communities, which is called planting, right? So you prepare a group and you go, okay, here's all the things that you need, and now here, go. Right, and then find a place, and then we can add to it, that sort of stuff. So, very interested in that. I'd love to see that happen. I want to start that conversation within this group. Again, I've already have a group of about 35 people on Facebook. It's a closed group, and I can't really just start throwing people in there, because one of the things that we've determined from the outset was, if you look at the right place, the right people are way more important, because if you get the wrong people in the perfect place, it's going to fail for sure. If you get the right people, even in a crappy place, they can succeed. So it's important to have the right people. And so just building those relationships is enormously important. Again, just the vetting process and getting to know one another. Because, again, some people are kind of looky-loos and they like the idea, but they're not really ready to do it, that sort of stuff. And again, no, I'm not, I'm not really gonna, again, cast judgment upon anybody who's not ready or unable to do it. They got kids and they can't do it. Again, it's not my place to judge any. I'm just saying that if you're interested in that, and certainly I am, I'd love to take a look at that, and sooner than later, because I think ultimately, if we want to survive for as long as we can. And again, I don't want to be, I don't want to be, Cami, the Carolinas, there's a place that we saw there. It's like a fully functional compound. I mean, with security measures, it's already got a number of different house, little cabins on it and stuff. It's awesome. They're asking about 600,000 for it. Now, I don't have that. But I've been kind of kicking around ideas for Kickstarters and what we could do to sustain it, to get it going. Because with enough people, it wouldn't take enough money. I mean, it wouldn't take a lot of money per person if you had the right group, or even people who came, for short periods of time to do some stuff, and they visit for a month or whatever during the year and kind of develop the place. We'll see what's going on there. So I would love to do that, and it's in North Carolina. So that's a possibility, and there's a number of different places to take a look at. And so, they won't come for those already in the city. Exactly. But I think if I were to look at this overall, my take on it would be the first steps are going to be like when they shut the power off or whatever, and try to get people out there. If we're already prepared for that, then we don't have a problem. But most people are going to immediately go running to the city or to the FEMA camps, because they're going to say that's the only place that can provide services, especially if they do an extended power outage for more than a month. And I think it's likely. They've been, again, talking about it for some time. They always telegraph this sort of thing, and they have been. So I think that's a very likely scenario, and all they'd have to do, they could do it tomorrow if they wanted to flip the switch and turn the power off. Nationally, FEMA would be the heroes, right? They'd come in and save the day, and people would line up to get into those FEMA camps that we've been all worried about, just for 10 minutes, to play Farmville or whatever. Got to get their Wi-Fi access in for a few minutes. So, that having been said, I'd like to start that conversation. So I'll set up a specific email address for that. We'll talk about it more. I may even do a specific stream just on that. But fundraise, exactly. We're talking about maybe a Kickstarter thing or something to crowdsource this. So start thinking about it. If you're interested in that, again, I'll put up my email address, unintended.consequences3@gmail.com. You can hit me up now, but I'm going to set up a specific email address for it, and probably in the near future, kind of this idea again of supporting community. I'm probably going to try to launch another website, just very basic, but a place that we can stay in touch. Because as people do begin to exit for whatever reason, these communities, these social media platforms, whether to move from one to another or just to exit altogether, it would be good, I think, to stay in touch with one another. And I don't expect to be on YouTube, forever. Certainly, again, who knows how much longer, right? I try to stay away from some of the more controversial topics, not because I'm afraid of them, but because that's not the primary purpose of our congregation here. It is to, again, develop community and to better understand how we got here and how we might help wake others up. We may be out of time in terms of that, but here we are. So again, I just want to put that out there. And cast that intention out there that I'm good to go. When we were looking at that particular property, despite some of the health challenges and stuff my wife had, she's like, well, I'm in, right? I'm like, okay, time to start packing. And then so seriously, I'm looking at changing things and trying to change what I do in terms of work and revenue to be able to allow us to do that. Because I don't need a whole lot. I just, in fact, self-sustaining is all I need. And I got some skills. We can do some stuff. I can cook and do a variety of different things with, again, technologies and that sort of stuff. So, again, think about what you might bring to that party and what your interest level is. And I may even put up a poll or something like that. And so, again, ultimately, I would love to see the right group of people come together and begin to try to prepare. right? And probably again, just at the outset, locally within the U.S. somewhere, where we can kind of tribe up, work out the kinks, prepare, and get ready to bail if we can, and to some place that, again, where we have a little bit longer time frame. Because again, from my perspective, what they'll do is we'll have a little bit of time. The first thing that they're going to want to do is get those who, again, they've already divided us up, right? We've self-identified. They know who is in and who's out. Right, they already know all that about us. That we're not going to hide anything there. But their primary focus to begin with is going to be on keeping those people together. People who are the guys wearing masks now, they want to keep them together and keep us away from them, so that we don't cause them change their narrative. So they'll get them all kind of settled, and then tell them that we're the horrible people and we're a danger to them, because we're probably infected with the beer bug and the plague and all that sort of stuff. So now they got to go clean up. Right. So we have, I think, a little bit of time as that transition occurs. But anyway, so there's that. So I want to start introducing that to the conversation. And here's why. Here's the time to transition. Again, I'm way over time here. And so this last part, I'm going to go longer than I anticipated. Sorry about that. I hope if you can stay with us, hopefully you can. Part of this whole thing was predicated by, as I said, a nudge in my spirit. And over the last few days, specifically, I'd say the last 8 to 10 weeks, increasing, but especially the last 2 or 3 days, man, it's like I was describing it to Jason Lindgren last night, that if we look at the whole universe as sort of a timekeeping mechanism, it felt like a cog had shifted. I'm not talking like a gear, I'm talking a cog, right? If you've seen it, like a major shift had occurred. And he responded to Jason that he had noticed a physiological response in the last 3 or 4 days, that he just thought he was under stress because working so much, but he had a physiological response to something, right? Something's happening. Yeah. Sorry, I just got a notice here that I can't record anymore. Oh, that's all right. We'll just keep streaming. I was on the wrong hard drive anyway. So here's what I want to do. Before I go any further with that, I would like to give you an opportunity, if you want. Give me a call. 206-734-4325. If you have yourself noticed in the last few days specifically a change. And just be brief. I'd like to get a few calls if we can, and let me know what you've noticed. Tell me what you sense. I don't want to go into a big long thing. I don't want to get into a lot of prognostication on what you think is going to come next. I just want to get a sense of what you felt. Right? Tell me what your spidey senses say. Real brief if you can. We'll try to get it in. Last 6 to 8 days, sure, I got that. Same thing, but increasing, and a little bit, especially the last, I would say, since the first of the month. If you can, give me a call, 206-734-4325. Again, we'll try to keep it brief and very direct. I just want to focus on this if we can, get us a few people. We've got like 92, 93 people here. So if we can get, a few people to call in and let me know what you sense. Like, just, again, I'm not looking for prognostication. I'm not looking for what you think is coming next necessarily. So David Venson, dread. Right? And drained. Okay. So, again, you can just put it in the chat if you want to, and that's fine. I want to get a sense of this before I move on, because there's some stuff I want to pitch out there, and we'll just see. Since August 27, says Megsy, I think you'll find very interesting about what I'm going to present here. Thank you, Richard Lopez. I am illiterate in a number of different languages. All right. So, again, you can put it in the chat if you want to. Also, if you want, give me a call. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to hear firsthand what it is that is in your heart, what's in your spirit. Again, I've seen it. I've seen anecdotally several people on social media say similar things. And again, I know I'm not the only one. And certainly after talking with Jason last night, it became plainly obvious to me that there is something. And then I'm going to relate that to something, but I don't want to telegraph it just yet. So Winston says, it's not just you. Yeah. People are withdrawn. Okay. Um, I want interrupted sleep. Okay. Dream since September 1st, right? So, Mark, the timing is right there. And I want to, again, I want to try to see if we're going to just, again, pitch this out. Tired, release, relieved. Right. Yeah, exactly. So, Cami, you are certainly got a situation there, right? It's an external situation that you're internalizing. So, absolutely, that would be part of it. Uh, all right. So, 866. Hey, welcome. This is Baldini. Who's this? Hey, Jay Armstrong. How are you? It's great to hear from you. How are you?
I guess I'm good. What I wanted to say about all is the uncertainty. Like there's nothing to look forward to, and everything is kind of stagnant, and all these rules, regulations, mandates get piled on top of things, and it'll make you feel very, very, very depressed.
Okay. Yeah. So, uncertainty and nervousness, right? Anxiety.
But yeah,
Okay.
not for me so much. But yeah, I mean, I've trained myself to not panic, but I see it happening to other people everywhere.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you,
Like,
Jay Armstrong, so much. I had another one that was coming in, and I missed it. If you guys want to call back, I'm just going to try real quickly to get as many as I can in here. I'm not trying to cut you off. I'm just trying to get a great sampling here. And Jay Armstrong, so great talking to you. Let's do it again soon. So can you? Well, I was going to say I could add you to try to get it in Skype, but thank you so much for calling again. Our other caller, if you want to come back, we'll try to get that going as well. I think I see it here. All right. So, hey, this is Baldini. Are you there?
Ooh,
Hey, who's this?
hey, Stephen Reese here.
Hey, Stephen, how are you?
Been a plant. I'm doing good, man.
Outstanding. So tell me what you've been experiencing the last few days.
Well, I've been going through a transition of moving from one property to the next, and I've noticed that normally I don't really get as much help as what I've been getting, and I've just noticed a lot of calmness, and just I don't know. Life is good, man. I
Okay.
don't know how to explain it.
Oh, perfect. So, okay, so the opposite then of Jay Armstrong. So you feel sort of a sense of calm, some peace. So, okay, perfect. But would you say that specifically the last couple of days is a difference?
Uh,
Like,
well, it's kind of ever since I started getting into flat Earth, this things just keep getting better and better. And right now, it
yeah.
seems like
Oh
I'm reaching
man.
the top of the mountain.
Yep, I hear you there, brother. Absolutely, right? Because once you see it for what it is, once the kind of the initial stress of like what, yeah, as soon as you get it, you're like, oh, well, okay, now I get it. Now, right? Like for me, it was the understanding of why everything felt so off, right? That okay, they're lying. Now I get it. That makes so much more sense, right?
Yeah, yeah, and it gave me a kind of a direction in how to think about things, and it gave me it's like it's easier to be positive,
Absolutely.
you know, in your daily attitude.
Awesome. So, anything specific in the last week or so that you've noticed? Any major change in the last week?
As far as what aspects, maybe.
Sort of like
Yeah.
just a sense of like feeling different, either in your kind of, I would say, in your spirit or physiologically. Anything that felt different or unusual in the last week.
I don't know, man. Just been planning on this thing for so long, and all of a sudden it's just
Here it
coming
is.
all together.
No,
It's
I
just
hear
blowing my-
I hear that. I've said several times that while many people are very concerned and even afraid, I'm actually kind of excited. Because I mean, it's all coming together, right? It's like, holy crap, this thing really is going down. So that's very interesting. Hey, man, thanks so much
Yeah,
for.
and
You go ahead.
well, yeah, and keeping up with all this stuff. I'm OCD on it, if you know what I mean.
I do.
And,
I absolutely do. Yep.
yeah, and it seems like the way some people are talking, there may really actually be some light at the end of the tunnel.
Agreed. I feel like I feel like there is. Again, from my perspective, it's going to be after shit hits the fan, but then
Yep.
everything gets cleaned up real good. So
Yep.
yeah, as we're saying in the chat, love is the great way to go there. Hey, listen, thanks so much for your call. I want to
Great.
try to get a couple more in. I really
Great.
appreciate it, and thanks for being here. Thanks for being a part of this community. I really appreciate it.
Well, hey, well, thank you, and I appreciate what you and all them other guys are doing.
Hey, thank you so much.
Power to you, man.
I appreciate it. Really sincerely. Thank you so much. All right.
Thank you.
Hey, have a great day. All right. 206 734 4325. Just taking some anecdotal information. If you have, again, something that you'd like to add or something that you've been noticing in the last few days, I'll try to. Here we go. Hey, this is Baldini. Who am I talking to?
Hello,
Hello.
Baldini.
Yeah.
Hey, it's Brian Jackson.
Hey, Brian. How are you, man? It's great to hear from you.
I'm doing pretty good. Yeah, I can definitely tell you within the last 3, 4, maybe even 5 days. I'm not a very anxious person, and I don't get anxiety. But I will tell you, I actually had a physical breakdown the other day.
Okay. Can you tell me a little
so-
bit about that? What you're like, as much as you're comfortable with, right? You don't have to overshare, but
Well, I basically just got to the point. Everyone has a lot of stuff going on in their life, but
Yep.
dear God, I got to the point where I literally just dropped to my knees and held my arms out and said, "What am I supposed to do?"
Man.
So as far as what that pertains to is, I've got an 18-year-old daughter that's moving out of my house. I've just got bills piling up. And again, I don't know if that's going to be any correlation to why I had a breakdown or not, but I guess one person can only take so much, and I feel like I've held a burden on my shoulders for so long that I just got to the point where I just broke. I was on a job, and I'm a landscaper, and I'm sitting there, and I just started crying. I'm in the middle of mowing a lawn, and I just turned off the mower, just dropped down to my knees, and what am I supposed to do? What's going on here? Why is the world around me feel like it's crumbling on my shoulders?
did you feel, out of curiosity, did you feel like you got any answer or any resolution there?
I did. I don't feel like I actually heard anything. Nothing inside my head was telling me, go do this or go do that.
Yeah. Hang on just a second, Brian. I'm going to catch this other call so they don't go away. Hey,
What's
welcome.
going on here?
Hey.
Why is the world around me feel like it's crumbling on my?
Oh, so mute the tab, and then I'm going to come right back to you, okay?
Okay.
All right. Oh, hang on. I'll be right back. Let's see if let me switch back over here. How do I do that? Hang on a second. I want to put this one. I want to switch calls. Hang on a second. Come on. Work with me here. Things are starting to freak out here. Skype has gone nuts. I'm trying to get back to Brian real quick. Hang on a second. If I lose you, just
I'll call back.
yeah, just call me back.
No
Okay,
worries.
thanks. All right, so go back over here. All right, so Brian, trying to catch you over here. Let's see if I can do this. Oh boy, I hope I didn't lose you, Brian. Hang on a second. Skype has suddenly decided to misbehave on me. I wanted to resume call. Okay, are you there, Brian?
Yeah. I'm
Okay,
still
perfect. Okay, sorry about that. I'm trying to make it all work, and it's just not playing well with me. All right, so so you said okay, so you felt better, but you didn't get a direct answer. You did not hear my child do this. All right.
here. No, I definitely didn't. Although I wish I did. Maybe that would have made me feel better at the time. But I will say after that actual moment happened, maybe a day or two later, I kind of just felt some kind of a relief. Like, okay, maybe what I'm doing is the right path, and maybe other people are trying to steer me in different paths that I shouldn't be on. And I mean, at this point in time, I feel like I'm kind of more on the straight and narrow, and I do feel better about it. But I do get what you're saying about how within the last few days, something has just felt like a little off kilter.
Yeah,
so to
exactly.
speak.
Okay, that's exactly what I'm looking for, and just again descriptions of how it feels and what you sense. Brian, thank you so much for calling. It's great talking to you again, my friend. It's great to hear your voice.
Yeah. Same to you.
All
Have
right,
a good
man.
one.
Hey, thanks, you too. All right. Again, 206-734-4325. Hopefully I can catch these calls as they come in. It's just going nuts on me. Maybe we'll get one or two more in, and then I'm gonna give you a possibility. All right, I'm going to throw some stuff out there and see what you think. All right, 206-734-4325. I think I heard Allison try to call in. Let's see here. Hey, this is Baldini. Who's this?
Hey, this is Vader Bear.
Hey, Vader Bear. How are you, man?
I'm doing great. Just woke up and spending some time with my children, but jumped on your live stream.
Outstanding.
Anyways, I've kind of had the opposite that I've heard some people. So me and my wife usually talk about how we slept, like, how'd you sleep? And then we usually get into dreams, if any dreams are a part of it. And since actually September, like a whole bunch of people in my family were having bad dreams. And then come September 1st, it just all faded away. So we've all been getting better sleep now. So what that means, I don't know, but that's just a weird thing that I kind of noticed.
Yeah. Okay. I appreciate that. This is the kind of information I'm looking for. And again, I'm not going to, I'll let you know what I'm thinking here in a minute, but because I don't want to skew the data, right? I want to get the fresh, clean data, but this is what I'm talking about. And then, hey, listen, thanks for calling in, Vader. I'm going to try to catch one more, and then I'm going to tell a little bit about what I experienced, and then I'm going to open the can of worms and see what happens. So, hey,
glad to hear talk to you, and look forward to that.
Hey,
Bye.
thanks so much. I appreciate it. Okay, so try to get one more in, and then I'm going to tell you a little bit about what I sensed, and then I'll do the little reveal package here and see what you guys think. All right, 206-734-4325. That's 206-734-4325. If you have a quick story you'd like to tell, grab this one. Hey, it's Baldini. Who's this?
Hey, this is Chris. How are you?
Hey, Chris. Great to hear from you, man. So
good. So I just tuned in. I listen to you guys frequently. Just tuned in a minute ago, and I heard you say something about noticing physiological changes.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. What have you noticed?
So two things about that. So I certainly am. But before I answer that, is this something like an astrological type thing?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I'll again I will definitely let you know. I'll definitely tell you what I'm looking at, but it's just a sense of things. So, like I said, I want to kind of get unedited, just to tell me what you sense in the last few days, especially if you've noticed a change, or what you've noticed. That's what I'm looking for.
So personally, from a physiological perspective, I'm 48, soon to be 49, and I'm healthy, thank God. But the last week or so, I feel like I just have this extra surge of energy, of youth. I feel like I'm 25 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and when I tuned in again a few minutes ago, I heard you mention that, and then it kind of clicked, and I was like, oh, I got to call in and share.
Yeah, so there's something.
Yeah, I would love. Yeah.
How about emotionally? I don't want to say spiritually or anything, but anything like that. So any differences there?
Interesting. So emotional, spiritual. I've been meditating for well over a decade.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty well balanced when it comes to spiritual, psychological, and all that. I will say that the last month or the last week, what has coincided with the physiological enhancement, if you will, there seems to be more of a sense of power, not in an egocentric type of way.
I get it.
But I feel very empowered and very powerful.
Yep. That's exactly what a previous caller kind of said, right? A sense of peace and like it's all sort of settling in a little bit. And again, so with a wide variety of stuff, and that's why I was interested, because not everybody's is consistent in the same thing, but that a lot of people are noticing something. And that's what I wanted to get to. Hey, listen, thank you very much for calling. I want to try to bring this thing into a landing, so I don't want to miss what I wanted to show here. So, hey, thanks very much for your call. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, you got it. Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Appreciate it.
All right, so let me tell you really quickly what I sort of sensed or what I felt right during this period of time. Again, over a period of probably 8 to 10 weeks, like sort of increasing tension a little bit, not necessarily all bad, just something going on. And but this last week especially, beginning right around the 1st, suddenly there was like all of a sudden like a major oppression. Or I don't even know how to put it. So Wednesday, it was actually so intense that I actually, didn't go to work. I had to schedule some stuff. And then Thursday, my wife, similar thing. And so I stayed here with her. So 2 days, Wednesday and Thursday, did not do my regular work thing to take care of just some stuff around here and to make sure to be there for my wife. And we were kind of walking through this. And then I got some information yesterday that was a little interesting. And the timing was, well, right on time. So again, I'm not making I'm not making any claims here, but I am saying the timing is very interesting to such a degree that I thought I would bring it up and I'm going to pitch it out there and let you guys chew on it. We don't have to give any answers right now. We don't have to say, oh yeah, that's it. We just here's a weird thing. Nachikita's right on top of it. 45 hours plus. So he mentioned it. Schumann resonance. If you're not familiar with it, the Schumann resonance is well. If you think again of the I'll show you how. I'll show you what the NASA would tell us. Right? Is that this is how they would describe it, of course, with their ball going on here, and then it's kind of bouncing around. That's of course nonsense. But if you let's see. I got to switch over to that so you can see it. All right, so that's the way NASA would approach it, right? Is with this ball nonsense and how it's all kind of bouncing around inside the ionosphere. But if you take a look at the way the world is laid out, more of what we see it, or at least that looks like to me, is that we've got a toroidal system. This green area here, that would be the dielectric inertial accretion disk here, as above, so below. This is the top where the dome is. This would be the underworld here. You'd probably take a little bit different look at it from this perspective. And here's the firmament with all that spinning around. So that's kind of what we're looking at. And so this whole thing has an electromagnetic vibration to it and a resonance frequency. And that resonance frequency goes between, the extremely low frequency goes between about 3 hertz and about 60 hertz. And interestingly enough, the 60 hertz is the frequency rate that they chose for power in the United States for alternating current is 60 cycles per second. But the fundamental is just over 7 hertz, and 7 cycles per second is right at the edge between the alpha wave and beta wave of human thought. So in terms of our consciousness, it sits right there at that frequency. And this electromagnetic resonance frequency is connected to all living things. All life is connected to this. So the Schumann frequency, again, they first started noticing stuff in about 1869, but it wasn't until about 1952 that Otto Schumann began to measure it in a measurable way. And this is the standard sort of thing that you would see. This is March 2020, and you can see by day here that it varies throughout the day. It has basically what it almost is pretty consistent with an electroencephalogram. If you look at a human, waking and sleeping periods, right? So you have these wake, sleep, that sort of thing. Well, so beginning, let's go here. So beginning in, let's see what it was. Let's go here. So, and again, this is the sort of thing that we would normally notice, and so one of the things that's been noticed is that depending on this resonance frequency, people have reported different kinds of dreams based on that. It affects again this consciousness of people because it's right there at that alpha to beta wave and theta wave. It's right there on the edge of it, and so it can it really every living thing is connected to this. So let me take a look at this. And so beginning overnight on the 31st, between the 31st and the 1st, there was a large-scale coronal mass ejection that was in excess of 1,000 picofarad units. So there was a major coronal mass ejection. And I'm not sure that that's for sure tied in, but it was immediately after that that what we began to notice here. And again, this was in 2012. They were predicting a catastrophic solar megastorm by 2020. And again, what they describe, space weather, and I don't buy their narrative of that. But what we definitely have, right, is that overnight there was a peak, and I don't know if you can see this very well, but right here. So what we're looking at is the blue line here, and this is the Potsdam, and this is a coronal mass ejection. Some of these are sunspots and that sort of thing. But if you take a look here, there was a very significant spike right here overnight. This is just as you come into the first of the month, overnight, this major coronal mass ejection spike. Immediately thereafter, what was noticed is, let me flip over here and show this here. All right, so again, this is sort of, again, leading into it, this is 921 as we're coming into it, and that's the standard sort of thing that we would see. All right, so overnight, this is 9.2, right here, 9.3. All of a sudden, and it really began or a little bit earlier, so all of a sudden the data dropped out, and many monitoring stations were wondering what was going on. Well, take a look at this so a 9.2 overnight. This is 9.2 at 6 a.m., right at 6 a.m., it flatlined. This is the Schumann resonance, what you would normally see here, and suddenly it flat lines for a period of about 45 hours. I was talking to Rose about this last night. She was on the phone with Crow, and he called poppycock. He said, "Well, that would be like it was dead." And I'm like, "Hey, I'm giving you the numbers. I'm not making any claims here about what." So I started to think about what could cause this, because this is akin to a human going into a coma, right, or being dead. Again, we have these normal cycles of wake and sleep, but this is remarkable and unprecedented that I know of. Now, one of the things to note is that the data went offline for a period of time and then came back as null. So it is possible that all the monitoring stations were taken down and they scrubbed the data so that you could not see what was there. And when it came back, they just had it as null. But it doesn't appear that way to me. It does appear to be real, but static. And so the implications of this are, well, let me throw out some. So Israel, it's exactly, my first thought was possible phase reversal. So the first thing I thought of was that somebody instantiated a polar opposite. But again, it would take some real feat there to identically match these and throw out a polar phase reversal of it to cancel it out. Now you do see some little squiggles here, right? So every couple of hours there's a little squiggle. So that is on the table. That's a possibility that somebody introduced a waveform that is again out of phase in such a way as to cancel it. But the implications of that are, again, that's nefarious. So I mean, but what we're looking at here is the possibility of, can we trust this data? Well, here's the thing. I've gotten it from a variety of different sources. So it's not just one monitoring station. Now, again, I will say that it went down for a period of time. It was, again, blank, and then it came back. So if I come to, let me switch over here, and I'll show you current live. Is it still live? No, let me go back over here, I think. So this is, where am I looking at? All right, so this is supposedly real time. I can sort of zoom in here a little bit, and we can take a look. This is the normal type of things you would see. And you see there's a big dip here. This is in February. So there's a big dip here, but it did not go flatline. And as we come forward, again, it started to ramp up, and this is actually pretty high until you get this place right here where the highest peak here is well over 200, right? In fact, it peaks over 500 here at this one spot. So that's really pretty high. But then we get here, and again, this data that I'm showing right now does not include what we experienced because it only goes to as far as 17 August. This is not actually real time. But what we see here, right, is this top wave dropped out completely. And this is not including what we see here, just the last little bit. So even though I zoom in here, and it drops down pretty substantially, we're not getting this last little bit. And so I was trying to find some real-time observances of this. And so here, I think this is supposed to be updated. So 4.6 seconds between these, updated every 60 minutes. So this is supposed to be in real time. And so we do actually have some activity here. If we look back, though, we can see that we have this 45-hour dead period that occurred. So again, what are the implications? So again, here, session temporarily offline. What do we know? Well, again, what we know is not much. Again, I haven't had a lot of time to do much further deep research into it, other than to, again, consider what are some of the implications. So the implications are, one, that all the data reporting stations were either taken offline intentionally or went offline. As a result, for example, of coronal mass ejection. If we consider that, we have to think that there would be other things other than these monitoring stations that would go down. There would be other things that would be affected by the coronal mass ejection. Right? But we did see a variety of deep field space cameras that went offline late last year, all at the same time, for a period of about 13 days. And all of them supposedly for maintenance, which again is poppycock. They wouldn't all go offline, especially some of the ones using a variety of spectra outside the visible light range. So it would stand to reason that there was something that they saw that they didn't want people to see, so they took them offline and scrubbed the data. So that's a possibility that something occurred, either again, all of the monitoring stations and reporting stations went offline, or that data was simply scrubbed because there was something there they did not want us to see. That's a possibility. Another possibility is what we previously discussed, is that somebody intentionally, and again, it would be quite a deal to operate at that level, introduced, like using HARP or some other means, a out-of-phase wave that modulated at pretty much the same, it'd be in real time to counteract it and to nullify it. And again, if you think about that, what for what purpose? Well, again, there are a lot of people that say a lot of things about what the Schumann resonance covers. We know some things for sure. There's a lot of things that we don't know, and there's a lot of implications made. I'm not prepared to make any claims about it, other than it's something that occurred, right? And so there's that possibility that they, again, so they scrubbed it. Somebody counteracted it with a electromagnetic field or electromagnetic wave that operated in the same bandwidth that nullified it. Or the possibility that something natural or supernatural, I don't know, whatever, occurred that actually caused it to go to sleep, or I don't know, who knows? Portal opens, something happened. Time shift, fuck, man, I don't know. I'm saying I don't know. What I am saying, I suppose, is that it's very interesting. We have something occurred, right? The data went offline. It came back. Yeah, J. Armstrong, exactly. The telescopes were closed, right? So it went offline. It came back. The information was gone, but it came back scrubbed, but not really scrubbed. Again, it does seem, from what I can tell from the data I'm looking at, there is a little bit of information that came back. So it's not just like a dead flat line. It's just pretty much nothing there, right? On these fundamentals, right? So I don't know, but here's the other thing: is that it corresponded precisely, not only with number of people getting a different sense of things. So that I found that an interesting. Again, correlation does not necessarily equal causation. I'm the first to jump on that train. Well, but I found it interesting, and look at this. The time and from all the sources happens right here at 6 a.m. UTC, right? So same thing here, right at 6 a.m. Suddenly it stops. So I don't know what to make of it. Yeah, right. Bob changed the face of the dilithium crystals, so they could reinitiate the warp drive core. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. But I do find it very interesting that the anecdotal information that began to come in, and I began to see it as a pattern developing on social media prior to the information of this, is that there people begin feeling something, right, and sensing a change prior. Well, I mean, at the same time, but prior to the information becoming available. So I find that enormously intriguing. Again, I'm not yet willing to make any claims or even speculate much, other than potentially what caused it. I mean, some pretty straightforward ideas. Everything went online, but it's interesting. So yeah, Megsy, that's 6 a.m. UTC. So again, I don't know what to make of it. So again, with this data that you see here, if I zoom in a little bit, you can see it's not just dead. It doesn't look scrubbed to me. I mean, it could be. You could scrub it and introduce noise and interference to give you that look, but I don't know, man. That looks fairly. I would say it's inorganic. So my first thought, and what I'm holding to right now, is my my primary, my gut feeling is that somebody threw out a wave to try to cancel it, right? That there was a very powerful electromagnetic wave field that was introduced unnaturally for a specific purpose. That's again, I'm not making any claims. I'm just saying that's my gut sense of what I see. So I don't know. I just wanted to pitch that out there and say I don't know. Random number generators doing it in comparison. I haven't looked again. This is just coming in overnight, right? So I just a few conversations initiated from where, Hart? Maybe. That was my first thought, but I'm sure that they have an enormous number of technologies that we don't know about, Bob. I'm familiar with a couple of things that have been going on. Again, I'm suspicious of LIGO. I don't think it is what they say it is. And when you've got, and of course you've got CERN. They say that they're offline right now doing some repairs. I don't trust anything they say. So we know there's an enormous number of installations that have generating just, again, 9.6 gigawatts. They're generating all kinds of energy, doing a variety of different things. So it's well within the realm of possibility, right? Somebody asked me the other day if, like, for example, the idea is that bees don't fly but levitate. Could you knock them down? Yeah. So again, I agree that LIGO is BS, but what I'm saying from my perspective, Bob, is that it may be something, just not what they say it is, right? So in other words, it's not what they describe, but they put in a huge facility to do, ostensibly something. And I think you could do it a similar lie, a lot less complex. Or again, it's just a cover story, right? We put in something to do a thing, and we're just going to call it this. Right, that's my sense of it. Right, if you've got these multi-billion-dollar facilities that are supposed to be catching gravitational waves, again, I think they could be doing something very different if you introduce a lot of energy into it. They putting them at right angles, you could do all kinds of stuff that I can imagine right off the top of my head. Right, for nefarious or other purposes, but certainly not what they're saying it is. Again, gravitational waves is nonsense. But what I am saying is, you put in a facility like that. You could do all kinds of things with it. I hesitate to think that they would just throw a bunch of money at it. Yeah, it's an oversized Michelson-Morley experiment, but that seems what they tell. Again, this is what they tell us, and they just give us the video tour, right? This is what it is, and this is what it does. I don't trust it any more than I trust the ISS, or less. Right? I just go, everything they say, from my experience, is a lie or misdescribed. So who knows what the fuck they're doing, right? I mean, I could set up all kinds of experiments and tell you that it's something completely different and make a pretty solid case for it. I could double talk pretty fast and baffle you with bullshit, throw a bunch of stuff out there. Again, I don't know. I'm not there, but my sense of it is, this is what my spidey senses say, is that it's an awful lot of money to throw at something just for that's complete bullshit. In terms of it doesn't do anything, right? So it's big Michelson-Morley experiment. Sure, that's what they tell us, right? It's an interferometer. But is it really that? Fuck, I don't know. right? I can think of a lot of things that they're doing, or could potentially do with that kind of technology. So what's happening? Above my pay grade. I don't know, but I've been exposed to enough things that I can imagine potentially a variety of things that would be very interesting. But I did say. This is what I will put out there, that I find it, again, correlation does not equal causation, but I do find it very interesting that the timing of what a number of people felt, right, is very coincidentally well timed with these measurements, or the lack thereof. And its implications would be stunning if those things were, if there was actually something going on. Again, could it just be a failure of a machine? Sure, but the fact that anecdotally a bunch of people had a sense of everything from foreboding to more energy, right? So blocking or undoing the typical thing for whatever, a reset, who knows, right? It's very curious. I just find it, I'm fascinated and intrigued by these sort of things. So my spidey senses always get tingling when I notice oblique things that shouldn't go together that suddenly do. Anyway, I'm just pitching that out there. I thought it was very curious. So yeah, the Lorenz contraction. That's the funniest shit I ever heard, man. That it's bad. If you're not familiar with the Lorenz contraction and what that is, look into it. You'll get a good laugh. All right. So with that, I think that's all I've got today. There's 2 hours of blah, blah, blah. I told you it would get weird. And it could either be interesting or not. Could it be Revelation 8? Maybe. Silence for half an hour. And again, that's 45 hours. Good thought, Ceiling Fan Man. I don't know. But it's a great thought, because if I look at it, from the four horsemen, and again I've considered this before, right? The first one, a white horse given a crown, that's Corona, going out to conquer, right? That's the setup. The second one, a red horse, then that would be gave a big sword. And it says in some translations that they should slaughter each other. But if I read it again in the original Greek, that they should attack one another. And attacking one another is exactly what we see that they would do online. Right. The third one is the black horse with the scale. Right. So food shortage. Right. So we've got that going on. And the fourth one, power given over a fourth of the earth, or 25% of the earth, that death should come in pestilence, war, animals. So I haven't seen that one yet, but if that starts again with the thing in the fall, if they say, second wave, and they actually do, release some actual pathogen to say, see, all you crazy conspiracy theorists, we told you there was something, you nut jobs, you're the ones responsible. Anything's possible. I'd keep the door open for almost anything. So a good thought, Ceiling Fan Man. I was going to say, I don't know, right? I just don't know. But it's worth thinking about. That's all I'm saying. Keep your eyes open. Reach out and, meditate. Let your spirit, I would always say to ask Dad, right? I don't know, ask him. If anybody lacks wisdom, let him ask. So set your phasers to stun and see what you get. Right, turn up your antenna and see what you get. I'd love to hear your stories this week. Unintended.consequences3@gmail.com. I'm going to set up an email address and a folder specific for this idea of the Exodus. And if you're interested in tribing up physically and maybe trying to find a place that we can actually migrate to and try to at least set the foundations before it all collapses, I'd be into that. I'd be into taking a look at how we might fund it. I don't have a lot of money. I don't know a lot of people who do have a lot of money, but I know I've got skills. I can make some money, and I'm willing to, invest both sweat equity, time, emotional and spiritual and physical. I'm ready to pitch in with that. So if you got ideas about that, let me know. I don't have a huge amount of time. Obviously, I have a regular day job trying to feed the family and do the things, pay the bills for now. But I'm willing to make drastic changes there, if necessary, to accommodate or to move forward in that, because I think it's time. I just get a sense that it's time to make a move, and that's where I'm at. I'm not telling you what you should do. I'm just saying if that speaks to your spirit and you're into that and you'd like to explore it further, again, you can reach me, unintended.consequences3@gmail.com. If you're comfortable with the post office, which has been going a little weird these days, you can hit me up, Post Office Box 2248. Linwood, Washington 98036. If you'd like to get some stickers, it says "I do not consent." I still have a few of those left. I'll just send those to you for free if you just email me, unintended.consequences3@gmail.com. Make sure you include your shipping address, and I will get that for you. So that people say, "Hey, I want a sticker," and then they don't tell me where to send it. And just recently, I had one person at least who didn't get it. They got returned, and it was the exact proper address. It was really strange. So we're going to try that again. But to that. Anyway, hit me up, and the other thing, I'm going to talk to Crow again this week, and see what we can do on this kind of photograph project. I've got September 11th photo project at gmail.com. You can hit me up for that as well. But I'll tell you more about that. I set up a Dropbox set of folders for capturing images of your television. See if we can catch anything interesting over the period between the 9th and the 13th. And Sue, Bob, thanks guys so much. I didn't know what would turn out here. It's just I just got nudged today to talk about this. So with that in mind, I'll just keep these things in mind. I'll be back tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. for Ancient Wisdom for a Modern World. We'll take a little bit deeper look at some of the wisdom from the ancient world. And then tomorrow evening at 5 p.m. Pacific time, that's 8 p.m. Eastern, we'll come back for a .5 episode that's without our friend Wayne McCroy, but of Sola Scriptura. We'll take a deeper look at that. I've got some other things to mention during that would be inappropriate for this show. So that having been said, I appreciate everybody coming in and spending time with me this morning. It really is the highlight of my week. So thanks again so much, and I hope you have a lovely weekend, a great week. Let me know what you think, guys. It certainly is going to be interesting, that's for sure. Take care.